Melissa, would you please start?
To the flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just got into
You just got it too.
using the town website, the agenda, and
You want to mute it?
from the town website.
We're gonna move on to audience of citizens. Do we have an audience of citizens tonight? Yeah, please state your name and rise, please.
George Miller, 1231 Orchard Road. We were just coming in to see if maybe we could just get an update. You guys have any more
Got it.
information? Got it.
We got a big.
The signs are up today.
Are they really?
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, we got the approval this morning from the state and you, your road is a no through trucks road now.
Excellent. Thank you so much for
You're welcome.
doing it.
Yep.
Really appreciate it.
Anybody else, audience of citizens?
Real quick, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank the police department. We're still having some issues with Bright Feed. And I'm working just with Donna, and I just have a discussion with the chairman of the board. We're gonna buy a couple of noise meters, and noise ordinance just went into effect, I think, August 16th after it published for 30 days. So, and we're going to get some information from companies. The filters are in place, just so you guys know, and the noise equipment has been in place for a while, but some residents are still complaining about noise and the odor, which is odd, according to the chairman we spoke to. They're gonna send us all our test results, because they've been engineers going around all the neighborhoods testing the odor and the noise. So we're gonna meet with the residents, hopefully next week, to get information and kind of take it from there. And then last night, I'm bringing it up at only at your guys' meeting, because last night, one of the individuals went to Bright Feeds and I guess created a little disturbance there. So they ended up falling, Berlin's wine and Berlin's out there. Crazy, right? But so, and the company is a little bit upset at that, obviously, because they are working to resolve the issue. But we will continue to work at it. John is working on the state side.
Great.
Working with the environment committee.
Have you witnessed any of this problem yourselves?
Come to that, but we're trying to get by.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else in the audience of citizens? Not, I'd like to move on to the approval of the minutes for July 17th.
Just one correction in attendance. My name is misspelled. The 1, 2, 3, 4th line. 2 N's and then 1 N.
Oh, it's two M's and then one.
Yeah.
The Irish version.
I know.
Spelled correctly also, so it's good.
Thank you.
I'd like to somebody make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second. Any questions or comments? Take a vote. So. Any correspondence?
No, that's just something that didn't make the packet. Was that? Okay,
Do we have any letters or anything like that?
he had a letter, but.
They
it wasn't what we thought.
They asked you to be unmuted because they want to speak.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I think your cursor was just on there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I wanted to make sure they was on speak.
Personally.
Yeah, I have a letter from Commissioner Wilson and he submitted his resignation as of March 5th. Too bad.
Okay, so we're going to move on to old business. It's a verbal review of the police renovation project. Chief, please.
Yeah, they're still moving along. They've started closing the rooms, the sheetrock's going up, the electrical lines are being pulled. They're pulling all the data stuff to the areas where they're gonna have some link ups with the dispatch center and all. We have a concern coming up in right after actually got it written down. Oh, something right after Labor Day weekend, they're gonna start knocking out the wall in the bathroom. That's the bathroom that's attached to the bathroom that's in the lobby to make it ADA compliant. And one of the issues that we're gonna have is the dispatchers. Oftentimes it's only one dispatcher. And what they've done in the past is when they've had to use the bathroom while they're working, they shut the door to the hallway and they open up the bathroom door and use the facility so they can still hear the radios and hear what's going on. That's not going to be available for about a month is what they told us. So the issue is going to be how are we going to address that for a month, because we don't have a setup for two dispatchers at all times. And that could be an overtime issue. So I have that on my list of
Maybe some kind of a monitor of some sort.
well, our dispatcher is also our front window person, our telephone answerer, and they don't have a headset or anything like to walk around the building with, because you got to dispatch from in there. So that's something that you're gonna have to think of how we're gonna address this, but this is gonna happen right after the weekend of Labor Day. And for about a month is what the contractors told us.
We need to address that issue. That's
So
Mhm. What?
bring a porta potty in there.
Yeah. I mean, what they've been doing hasn't been really the best either. It's sitting in a room with the door open and the other door closed,
All
but
right, I'll step down and step into this personal too. Orchard Road complaint update.
well, today we got the approval from the state for a no truck zone. No through trucks, and also Bobach brought it into me this morning. We were very happy to see that because we weren't sure the state had already turned it down twice previously. And this afternoon, he's putting in the order to put the signs out. He went out there and the signs are already up.
Fantastic.
And there's given exceptions for construction. So
Well, yeah, because it's like if you're gonna do trucking like they were doing when they were moving fill from Southington, when they were draining a wetlands or pond or something over in Southington. What was it?
There was some slope.
Yeah, that's right. So that would be stopped. I mean, local crime comes to deliver stuff to your house. That's not in violation.
And the
So-
dump trucks that are delivering to the corner of Orchard and Kensington.
Yeah, that would still be
All that.
allowed because that's their destination. So it's gonna require some enforcement, but
yeah,
it's gonna
initially,
be
yeah.
kind of selective.
at outset, just to kind of let the message be known.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're pretty happy about that.
It's very difficult because it says no through trucks, but it doesn't mean no through trucks.
Exactly.
So
That's
just
why,
for
yeah.
residents, they have to understand that that truck is operating anywhere within the town of Berlin to a location going to or from that location that they're still authorized to be on that street. So it would only be someone passing through from, let's say, Southington to Newington, and they use that road to get through, which is more problematic for enforcement because you don't know unless you follow them the entire
or
way.
they're truthful or lie,
Right.
and it's,
So-
the town trucks are exempt as well, because they're.
Yeah.
Contracts are exempt, right.
Yeah.
But what started the problem with the trucks a while ago was the fact they were actually moving the fill from Southington over and getting that, using that route to get to the turnpike to go to, I think they went to Middletown or something after
Yeah,
that.
the trucks so much aren't even the problem, it's the speed at which the trucks are traveling.
Yeah.
So if you stop a truck for the speed, whether they're, have a legitimate interest to be there or not, they're
Speed.
still,
Hopefully to deter people from making a shortcut.
yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the Juneau bicycle complaint response update. There's an attachment.
You have an
To
attachment
the
for
wire
that.
report, which is on 9. It's on paperwork number 9.
Oh, it's 9, that's right, yeah.
I put it on, I number the pages, so it's on page 7. The first page out. It's by Detective Kevin Chafee. And it's update regarding groups of use in bicycles since the previous update to the Berlin Town Council 3/18/24 agency has continued to receive calls for service complaints regarding groups of use riding bicycles recklessly in the roadway. In addition, many of the associated use of these groups have also been responsible for causing disturbances of local businesses, prompting trespass orders by police. The following lists include calls for service involving use of these bicycles through this update. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 calls for service. In that particular, in the last one. And it's, so
And I
to sum it up, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Mike,
I'll just finish reading the very last paragraphs on 3/17/24 investigations. Division, Lieutenant Sean Solik submitted a multifaceted department response to bicycle safety concerns in the community. As a result, our agency has successfully implemented the Safe Kids Wear Lids program, increased bicycle patrols, partnered with Berlin High School students to launch bicycle safety awareness video on social media, partner with parents to address reports of use operating the bicycle safely without police action. The Berlin Police Department will continue to monitor these underlying issues / complaints and utilize juvenile review boards / summonses wherever appropriate for repeat offenders. I'm guessing that because it is summer, if we have such a high, this many cases, I'm imagining if anybody would like to comment.
I have a question about that because I know a couple parents approached me because some of the kids on bikes are now like throwing items at passing cars and into passing cars. And there have been instances with other adolescents, and I worry about adolescent teens getting into conflicts with these kids on the bikes, but being provoked. I guess I'm worried about these kids on the bikes and how they're engaging with the public in general. And how parents are responding. If parents are responding.
Okay, so if we get the call for somebody that's throwing stuff or anything like that, we're gonna take enforcement action. If, we gotta catch them. And
Yeah. And that's the problem.
that's the problem, because they ride down the alleyways or into the woods and stuff with the bikes. I mean, one day I was out there myself and grabbed them and I ended up following them onto Patterson before I was able to, and I'm in an unmarked car. Part of our problem is that some of the juveniles are not really, they're juveniles, but they're really not that 11, 12, and 13 age group. They're the 16 to 20 age group. And they're the ones that seem to be from out of town. And they're the ones that are getting very vocal part of the reason why they get vocal is because we've been putting a lot more effort into trying to stop what's happening down in that area, Farmington and on the sides and all. Like this coming Sunday, we have a community of at the high school from 10 to hand out previously. That's great for the young kids. And if the parents show up, we can educate the parents. Some of the parents are helpful, and some of them think that this isn't an issue. When we've brought them in, we've been bringing them in to talk to them all. So, I talked to, Lieutenant Solik, just got back from vacation on Monday, and, we said we're gonna take a more aggressive role. Our problem is we can't, some of those, if they're over 16, you can summons them. If they're under 16, we got to get them to the Juvenile Review Board. So I talked to Jamie Miller myself about trying to get some more people to the JRB. They haven't had a JRB in a while here.
3 years.
Yeah, I don't understand why, but I think it's because they didn't have people to do it. That's what I was told. So she's on board with it too. But that part's the social part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna, start doing that. And the ones that the kids that we've educated, we've also picked out some kids that have been good. We also get people calling us, telling us, oh, the kids got his helmet, they were polite. And because we're giving out Praline's ice cream, we're out of that. So that
So we've got some
food
good.
reward is gone. Yeah. So it's a dual-edged sword. And I only hope that in the next couple of weeks when school starts up, that some of these people go to school.
Right.
But the older kids tend to come from our neighbors. We've stopped a couple. I've stopped her from New Britain. So
I just worry if they're targeting some of the younger drivers, like the 16, 17, 18-year-old drivers, and throwing things at younger drivers. Younger drivers are more impulsive. And
well, I haven't had a report on that. It was younger drivers. I had a report that they threw bikes over into the culvert. They were throwing stuff at people that beeped the horns and yelled at them, but nobody said it was a younger driver to us. So that's something. Then we need to talk. Yeah, 'cause that's news to me, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna hope that over the next month or so, when school starts up, and now that Lieutenant Solik's back, that we can
Yeah.
move forward with this. But
The weather will slow them down too, once it gets.
once it snows a few feet, we'll be fine.
We hope.
Okay, so we're moving on to the communication systems repair update.
So last week we had the kickoff meeting with the state and Norcom, our vendor, and our personnel, and Motorola. And they're working on a calendar. They're looking at some of the stuff, the upgrades and all, we're hoping to get done sooner. But for parts and all, they're looking at a 6 month. We're told that's a good 6 months to get equipment coming in, to start upgrading and repairing the stuff that's in the dispatch center that has to be done. But Lieutenant Martin's heading that up, and he's trying to get Motorola to do the upgrades right away. In the meeting, one of the reps from the state said that there was some other things that were going to be happening with the state radio system that is going to come out in a couple weeks, and he thinks it's going to be very advantageous for our department as we're working to get all the approvals with the state. And because I sit on the E911 commission as a commissioner, I did get notification that there's a special meeting of the commission, which they never do, coming up in September. And I think they're going to roll out some good information. That's what they were trying to tell us without telling us. Yeah. You know how that is.
When do you expect this to be finally settled in this?
Hopefully by summer next year,
Take till then.
2025. Yeah, if they get the materials, they're putting orders in now, but they're saying 6 months to 9 months for the materials stuff. So, but in the meantime, our portables just need to be upgraded. Our portables actually are good. We're getting some new portables because some of they're different waves. So we want them to start that right away, and they're talking about starting that probably in October. Not in time for the fair. Yeah.
That's
All right, there's an add-on in here. It's town council members. It's regards to special events. Would you like to talk about what you had put together here, Chief, and as to how we're going to handle it? I did go by the May.
Oh, this was what was presented to the town council at the 23rd, on the 23rd meeting. And we didn't have we had our meeting before this. So some of this you have seen, although I changed the draft a little bit and it's still being worked on. What you didn't get was the stuff that I gave to the town council members. So I inserted it into this month's packet so you can all see it and read it. Which basically talks about some of the ideas that I think that we should be looking at for dealing with big special events. And looking at some big events as special events, not just as a flat private duty assignment.
I did take the time to go by this special event that we held recently on the fairgrounds. There was quite a few cars there. They did stop to talk to Anne Marie Haas. And she had some enlightening things to say. She said, well, you know, they don't have booths open, they don't have rides going. So people in that particular event were coming in simply to see what was available to buy and what vendors had. And they were simply buying $20 hot dogs out of food trucks and they were leaving.
Was it that craft fair like last?
Yeah, made in Connecticut, or Connecticut made. Yeah.
So it was very deceptive because you had maybe 2 officers outside the fence, and I think she mentioned that there was only 1 inside. It looked like it went fine, whereas the pickle festival was complete.
Well, there's a couple
Yeah,
things that helped it out too. Having the gates open, having the parking available. That was a big thing.
Yeah,
And the
full.
numbers were not close to the pickle fest.
Was an after action done? I saw that one was done, but did you guys do an after action and what came of it?
We've actually started getting meetings going with all the other departments that sign off on the form that we used in the past. And that's part of what's in this, on the back of this thing that I sent to the town council members to try and utilize gathering more intelligence information when people come in and say they're going to run an event of that kind of magnitude.
Yeah, this is good. Was an ops plan done for the Pickle Fest or?
No. No, because it was treated as a private duty job, which consistently, that's the lack of a better term, it's the way things have always been done.
Yeah.
So now I want to stir it up a little bit and say, listen, we got to look at these with more scrutiny. And actually, we are looking at more scrutiny. We were all over. It's the same people that did the Made in Connecticut. And we were all over them, but it wasn't just the police. It was the fire marshal, P&Z, you know, because people will come in 6 months earlier and say, there, we're gonna have a thing, we're gonna have 2,000 people. And then 6 months later, 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have all the information.
An ops plan should be done, you know, I don't know how the definition is going to be set. Maybe that's up for discussion, but an ops plan should be done for any sort of considerable event, even if it's like, you know, a small protest at town hall and we're only expecting to get 2 people, you know, like, so that's something to discuss as far as what, especially.
Like we have an ops plan for the fair that we use, you know, every year we've
Yeah.
done it and add
Is
to it
that
and all.
this or is it?
No, they have nothing like this down there. This is new, although it's not new.
And speaking about the Berlin Fair, that would be considered a special event.
Well, the Berlin Fair has a carve out in the contract of the union, so they have to work it. The problem with the private duty thing is that they don't have to work it. And, you know, we can't order people in to work private duty jobs. That's where I'm, you know, having a problem with the union. So I really think that we need to look at the third option. And I did this in the other agency I came from. When we were getting bigger events and bigger events, like right now, they got their San Gennaro Festival going. That's a huge event now. 4 days, almost like our fair, right? Big event. And they do ops plans for everything. We didn't do ops plans here because it's always been, well, it's a small event. Let's see if we can get a couple officers to work. And if we can't get any officers in, then maybe the other towns will come and help us and they'll cover it and all. And we can't order people in from other towns. And so that's why I really wanted to try and get some language or something that we're going to have to negotiate with the union so that a special event gives us the opportunity to tell our officers, you have to come to work on this event. And that's going to have to call for some negotiating with the union. But the union is not against negotiating on this after what happened at the Pickle Festival.
This is something they're willing to do in the future.
Yeah, but we need to have something that has some bite too. We don't have any language that tells a person running an event that they have to hire Berlin or hire police services.
So that goes back.
Yeah, that might be a town ordinance that, yeah, so
and
we're gonna have
I
to
brought that up.
specifically define what that is. There
and come
needs
up
to
with the
be
numbers.
an agreement on a form that indicates, what the anticipated number is. And in the event there's an increase and the department needs to incur additional resources, it's under hook if an emergency occurs, 10 more officers are called in, and then we have to pay for it. It's not fair.
So like what I was trying to get across is that we need to have like, we don't have a special events coordinator, but we really should.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
that you get the stakeholders' investment in that planning phase to come up with the app plan, because the app plan, like at the Pickle Festival, they were serving a lot of alcohol, and nothing on the paperwork that we had said anything about alcohol. They were supposed to serve alcohol, but they say we're gonna have a wine tasting, or we're gonna have just little bits of alcohol here and there, but they're using their permits from state events that they run. That organization's still shady to begin with, so.
Yeah, I think a specifically formulated application that indicates, is there going to be liquor involved? And then all the stakeholders need to sign off on it, to include the town council, planning and zoning, the police department, fire department, EMS. I mean, that's the right way to go, because someone might see something that the other might not to
So that's
catch.
what I tried to do in
Yeah,
what I
I
did.
saw that in here,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
We don't have that right now in application.
We have a one-page one.
So let me ask this question. Are we prepared for the Borough Fair as of now?
Oh, yes.
Everything's in place. You might just give us a little info on how that's going to be handled.
It's gonna be handled as usual. We have our personnel, we have our scheduling, we got, some assistance for, here's, they just had their last, actually, it's not their last planning meeting, because now we pushed off to another meeting to September 5th with the volunteers, but, our personnel know they have to work. Our schedule gets put out in advance. They know what shifts they work in. We gotta staff our regular shifts too. But it's not like they can say, well, I'm not gonna come in for this. They have to come in for it. It's in the union contracts.
We coordinated everything with the Borough Fair, the Lions Club people.
Yeah,
Right
Lieutenant
down.
Joe is in charge of the details, so he does, it's all taken care of, yeah, and they've had multiple meetings, we have,
Please get us, somebody helping also
yeah, and some from other towns, like we did in the past 2 years,
with
with the
cars.
parking and all, and also we have Vinyl Tech bringing some drones. They have a drone group that they'll send up drones, so we use them as our eyes and ears above the crowd. I'm not worried about the Berlin Fair, it's everything else we worry about. The Berlin Fair runs like a clock, and it always has. I do think
That's
though
a
that we're,
pre-planned event, which you guys have done and been prepared for.
yes, we have
Whereas Pickle Festival
signage,
was
we get the
something
permits for the
unexpected.
closing of the roads and everything else.
Parameters.
Yeah.
That now
Yeah.
we know to.
Like we put signs up at their offsite park. Don't bring your gun from your car to the fairground, stuff like that, because we've been doing that for a long time.
Oh, very good. So I would like to move on. Thank you for that, to the chief's monthly report. Chief, that's what we report. So is there anything you'd like to comment on? I do have a question for you on page, but I'll let you start. That number 7.
So, yeah, I got it here.
Just real quick before we move on, within the confines of the rules we already have now, are any measures being taken for any upcoming events to mitigate any potential issues? So I understand there has to be a form. We're gonna develop that. There has to be a special events definition. In the advent of another potential pickle festival or whatever it's named, have we prepared any mitigating circumstances or plans to kind of prevent that? Would it be the use of this form?
Yeah, something like that, and also the fact that, for plain speaking bluntness, all the department heads who sign off on these things and just send them off to the next person, now everybody's wide awake.
Yeah.
So everybody's talking, there's group chats, P and Z, they're Maureen Justice really kind of spearheaded some of it. Depending if there's gonna be, say you're gonna use parking at Sage Park or something, then you get Parks and Rec involved, so everybody's kind of awake. I hate to use that term, it's not the term I'm looking for. They're more cognizant of that fact that we
Right.
have to stay on top of some of these events. And the one event that they're looking at, but I have no information on, is a possible Oktoberfest on Steel Boulevard sometime in late October.
Yeah, is there like an officer in charge of like gathering intel to, oh, look, the plate, it's sold out and we know that the occupancy is 5,000 or, you know, do you have an officer designated to like liaison with the vendor?
No, because that usually goes to our support services division and no one particular officer's been doing, maybe Officer Bobak, he's our traffic officer.
Yeah.
He's also involved with most of our big events as far as setting up traffic and all too. He does all that, he does the reviews and stuff. So I would say he's probably the most person that's involved on top, but if he's not available, then it could be any one of the other officers that's in.
Just to like
supports of the
liaison.
Sergeant, yeah,
Yeah,
sergeant.
because they'll probably
Haas
say
or
we're
somebody.
anticipating 200 people, but as it progresses, oh, wow, we're almost selling
Especially if they're
out.
selling
You know
tickets.
what? We're going to expand and try and sell even more, you know, like that's probably something the PD ahead of time should be aware of, like they should be notifying.
Paying attention more to some of the social media.
Yeah,
So, because, you know, we were all brought in, we were all in that weekend and we've had some discussions where it's time for everybody to pick up their role a little bit better.
yeah, like I know we're taking efforts to make it better, but until that happens, I just want to make sure we've done all we can to mitigate what we can until those changes come, you know what I mean? And it sounds like you have that, so.
From what I've understood in this conversation, a special events coordinator is necessary to obtain ASAP. And a town ordinance is necessary to force vendors to come clean with what they fully expect.
Well, so we can have some kind of an enforcement role
Mhm.
to say, hey, look, we go out, we assess that you're gonna need 5 officers.
There's an
And
ordinance in place that makes.
we got
that
something
happen.
that says, hey, yeah, we can tell you guys in 5 officers or you don't have your event.
Is that something we can do in the near future?
And we definitely know ordinance according to the timeframe, and we got an ordinance made to council to notice the publication, but, you know, it'll take 3 months to get it through the legal process, but just that Oktoberfest.
Is it on?
About that, the developer mentioned it when the lieutenant governor was here like a week ago. I'm not sure what that's about, but we gotta look at that, because I don't know what.
That's really being spearheaded by Chris Hedge.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
He spoke to us
Yeah.
before about that. He's
Yeah.
turning out-
but we don't even have an
yeah,
idea who's the person that's gonna run this.
I don't think he does yet either.
And
You're right, we don't know.
No.
it might be a good opportunity to pilot some, if it's
Yeah.
being organized
Yeah.
internally, pilot some of these forums to see kind of what's working and what's
I
not.
just want to avoid a Pickle Fest 2.0.
Well, we
Agreed.
definitely
You know?
at Farmington Ave, that's a good place.
Well,
for
right,
that,
right.
Mhm.
Right.
We don't need to-
See, but
we need it anywhere.
But the difference is that Farmington Avenue, we
I'm-
have control more, we have control on streets.
Yeah,
The Pickle Festival is on private property. There was a little, that's the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
And, you know,
within the confines of the law, we could create some obligation or duty upon the vendor.
Yeah.
That, you know, there's benchmarks, like, okay, once the venue hits 250 ticket sales, you gotta notify us. Once it hits 1,000, you gotta
yeah,
notify
we'll
the
put that in.
the POC. You know, once it hits 10,000, okay,
so for
Notify us
Made
again
in
so we
Connecticut,
can
we just did
scale up.
that. We just did that with the Made in Connecticut group.
yeah,
We were monitoring them as soon as we saw any number go up, but we were the ones going to them. They were not freely coming to
right,
us.
right, right.
So
But nothing prevents them from lying to you as well.
the guy
So
from the
I
Pickle
think-
Festival, the people from Pickle Festival liked us.
And that's why if there's a duty, they're duty bound based on the contract. There's civil penalties if they don't abide. I
But the
think that might be an avenue to explore.
I think it depends on who the contract is with, like with Pickle Fest, it was with Lions, which is a private organization. So so that's why another reason it's gotta be in a town ordinance, so that no matter private or.
Is there a chance we could have this ordinance in place before the end of this year?
Yeah, I think that would be possible, after it's published. Yeah, it takes about a 3-month process, so yeah, before the end of the year, it'd be good. Done. Perfect, started in September. Yes, definitely.
Because if you know ahead of time, there's gonna be 3,000 people, you can get your officers lined up, you can seek outside officers, you can start exploring, you know, even further outside officers, state police, or God forbid, emergency declaration, whatever the contract allows to call people in. It just, the more time you have to prepare, the better it is. So if we can give that to you, I think we should, you know?
Are we all set on that?
Yes, thank you. I apologize.
That was on
Thanks, Chief.
page.
We needed to really pursue that, sure. So we're moving on to the chief's monthly report. Chief, do you have anything you'd like to start with?
Let me talk about the anxious generation. It's on my list of meetings I went to, and somehow, are you aware of this anxious
Yeah.
generation? This has become a really big deal. So you have the school system, the social services, the library, and now the police department. I got people, including myself, reading this book, The Anxious Generation.
Yeah.
And it's this initiative that's going to be about 6 to 8 months. And that's what I found out at the meeting, involving our youth officer, our youth detective, our SRO, and I had put it out to any officer that was interested in being involved with this, where they're looking at mental health, young people, and in conjunction with the school system, where they're going to tell the students that they can't have their cell phones in class, and they got to put their backpacks in the locker so they're not going around from class to class with the backpack to keep contraband from being in the backpacks and all. And this is a big rollout. Social services involved. They're going to have breakout sessions with families, with students, concerned people, professionals in all different areas. And so that's, I got an email from the librarian, the head librarian, saying, hey, the library director, do you want a couple of these books and have some people read it and come to a couple of speaking sessions? And now it's turned out to a much larger initiative. So we have a few people doing that right now. It just really started. They're running out a bunch of different dates. There's going to be night times, there's going to be daytimes, there's going to be things in the schools and in different locations in the community. I'm sure that they're going to want to use like the senior center and community center and stuff like that, some of these things. And they're looking about 8 months to get this information out there and to try and get the police involved in that respect, to be role models and talk to young people about why it's important to put your phone down and learn in class and stuff like that. It's still being vetted out. There's a lot of information involved with this.
Managing our school resource officer.
Well, I'm pretty happy because the school resource officer read the first book and this was the second book. And I didn't know that, I never heard of this guy, and he had read the first book and he talked to me about it the other day and he says, I don't need the book because I already have his second book, which just came out on he's listening to it going back and forth to work in an unabridged edition. So he's way ahead of us on this, which is really, I think this is going to be a big event that you're going to see repeatedly over the next 8 months or so. So that's in the report I have. I included, we talked about this last month, the report card of where we are on our goals and objectives for the year of 2024, and a 6-month review on some of the things that we've done on the goals and objectives. Each division gave me their status. We did put the third detective assignment, that's an opening in investigations, on hold, really because we've got to move more staffing into patrol division, and we've got 5 people that are, either in the academy or training. We're trying to hire our 46th officer. So some of the stuff that we had as a goal, we might see at the end of the year. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Intelligence sharing, we've already started. We've been doing that. I was doing it pretty much myself, but I've got some officers now working on that. And one of the things I've been doing for the past week and a half is doing an interview process with every member of the department as we try to look at developing a new strategic plan for the future, going out 5 years. And some of our newest officers, one of them came to me today and said, I'd really like to get involved with CTIC and intelligence, which most officers don't want to do. So I was pretty happy with that. When he gets off of his probationary period, then, maybe we'll hook him up with that. So we have somebody you got to have an interest in intelligence, because it could be overwhelming. We get a lot of stuff every day. We have a possibility, but we're working on the whole regional FBI task force for a part-time officer as a TFO, a task force officer. It takes 3 to 6 months to vet an officer, even though they're already a police officer, to get on a federal task force. So we're working on that now. We have some stuff that's going on that has some Berlin ties, and out of the Newington, the Britain area, and they have a task force here, so we're gonna get one of our officers on that. Under operations, we're reviewing, staffing vacancies, the common theme, I'm talking to my officers, they don't like being ordered in for things. We learned that with the Pickle Festival. I'm kind of surprised because I think that, sometimes it happens in this job. Also, we've got some growing pains. You know, we put 8 officers on last year. And a year ago, we were down 10. So, it takes a year to make a cop and not everybody makes it. And, you know, we hope that our personnel see the bigger picture. And that's part of what's happening with the interviews when I'm talking to everybody and listening to their concerns. A lot of people are very concerned about a mass exodus in 4 years from the agency. We had talked about it 2 meetings ago here about working on succession planning and looking down the road. And that's one of the reasons why we got to do a new strategic plan. I think that I can tell you from personal experience, people say, I'm going to leave the day I can get out. Well, usually by the time you can get out of this job, you're married or you've been married a couple times. Got kids, you've got college bills, you've got a mortgage, and you're making the most money you're ever going to make. And are you going to quit and go start someplace else? But for whatever reason, the young officers, not the youngest ones, but like the ones that we hired within the past 3 to 5 years prior to me coming here, have this fear that as the older officers pension out, there's going to be a mass exodus on the same day. It's never going to happen. I thought that was going to happen back when I looked and said, oh, at 27 years, I'm getting out of this job. Well, it's 41 years and I'm still here, right? And then, so I asked them, why are you so upset about this? And the answers are kind of shocking. They're afraid they're going to have to do more work and all, you know, and carry more of the load. And we're working to get our officers so that everybody's carrying an equal amount of the load. That's generational. It's generational. At the Chiefs meeting last week for Mid-State, I'm talking to 4 other chiefs. We all have the same issues with the same young officers who have this this whole, and this is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but this work-life balance. You know, when I was a young officer and I said to the lieutenant, hey, I can't work on Saturday because I got to go to a wedding. And he said, well, you'll be here on Saturday if you like your job. Now, if I said that to somebody today, they'd be going nuts on me. So it's a different population. And so that's one of the things we're looking at. To respond to all the issues with traffic and the concerns with the motoring public who seems to think that this is the Autobahn in the state, we are looking to move some of our personnel that are not in those roles now back to those roles. I was hoping to talk about that in executive session tonight. And so it's a work in progress there.
I think I'd like to just, as the public can't see what we're reading here. And I think this is a very big issue. The operations division goals for 2024. This is goal 1, and we have commented, increases patrol effectiveness by utilizing existing resources in a more efficient and directed manner to prevent crime and motor vehicle crashes. Direct patrol in such a way that minimizes the ability and opportunity to commit crimes and conduct motor vehicle enforcement. Create safer roadways for the motoring public. Goal 2, identify training opportunities for staff and then leverage individual interest to match personnel with career advancement and training opportunities will create a more diverse and effective workforce to readily address the problems and concerns of the citizens of Berlin. Goal 3, work collaboratively with command staff to create a plan of succession for, we did talk about this, for the agency based on age, tenure. Many members of the supervisory or staff, it is anticipated that after July of 2028, a substantial number of supervisor staff and officers may elect to retire. Holistic approach to preparing the agency to continue operating in a seamless and efficient manner is contingent on preparation for the possibility of staff turnover. So these are all good. And then, so when you get to goal 1, when it comes to traffic, I think this is something really got to start coming to some kind of consensus on. Because it appears to me from even just through banter around town with people, that there's a lot of people running stop signs, stoplights. We have this parade on every Saturday afternoon that is a bit, it's ludicrous. And when you're trying to go after our youth for bicycle infractions in the middle of town, and you have 200 of these people with makeup on and everything else driving down Chamberlain Highway, the Berlin Turnpike, the question is, what can we do about this? Can we do anything about it? Can we work in conjunction with Meriden? Can we have an enforcement action of some size on Saturday afternoon? Where we actually have cruisers out there and cruisers going into Meriden. These people go by, you simply follow them to wherever they're going. I believe that the legislature allows us to confiscate these vehicles appropriately at this point.
The bikes and the tricky thing.
Well, the
ATVs
motorized
and, yeah.
ATVs and all that stuff.
Yeah. How do you cheat? Cheat.
You can't.
How do you chase them, Jim?
We have a no pursuit
Yeah.
policy. That's the problem.
The state has a pursuit.
Yeah.
Not the
And we-
police department.
That policy's not ours. That's dictated by post through the state.
Well, I
And
understand
You
it, but
can't, if you go to pull me over and I'm on a trike,
Right.
I'm gone. I'm not gonna stick around.
right.
And when we talked about the 200 last month, was it last month you asked me about that?
Problem.
There was a task force guy in there with that, I just found out.
You should do it.
So we
Yeah,
have some problems.
I think
Well,
the
what if-
legislature passed a bill
Did.
allowing the creation of a Greater Hartford task force to
Yeah.
combat this.
Yeah.
And last month, there was an incident on the Berlin Turnpike where there was about 300, I'm not kidding,
No.
dirt bikes, ATVs, swarming car. It was bad. And I brought it up at the meeting, and I think the chief said that one of the surrounding towns is looking into it.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to find out who the town is, and if they catch anyone,
Couple
courtesy
prospectors
of Berlin
doing it.
PD, here's your ticket as well. Because they did it here. They went through the whole Berlin Turnpike.
Well, we had something, the Pine Loft has been doing things on the weekend, so we had to put our officers in the parking lots before they start coming in and say, hey, listen, the business is next to the Pine Loft. Like, we don't want them parking here. But the Pine Loft was advertising, come drink at our place, and bring all your parking. And then the last advertisement they put out there said, this is, no wheelies, no burnouts and all that stuff. And because our officers have been there, the crowd hasn't been showing up since.
Yeah.
But now I've got to dedicate an officer to stay there. And last year, when I was in San Diego at the IACP convention, I went through a 3-hour program. What California came up with a really good plan where they get the prosecutors involved. They, officers getting surrounded by these people. We've already had some officers in Connecticut get assaulted.
Right.
So we don't have, I don't want to say anything like that. Okay, we have a limited number of officers in the field at any given time.
Yeah.
We don't have the numbers to do that, to corral them. So our real thing would be trying to follow them, get information. Now in a car, if they got a registration plate, that's great. On most of these other things, they don't have any registration.
So,
plates. They're wearing masks, they drive right by us.
Troop H,
Yeah,
at Troop H, they had an issue with these guys coming up on the highway. And they were able to get into their social media accounts, find out where they were coming from, where they were going, and then corralling and arresting them in mass. Yeah, so if you guys have an interest, they could reach out to one of our intel guys or Troop H and see how they did it, what they did, or share information, just because if something's originating out of New Britain and coming into Berlin, you guys are aware of it ahead of time, you could maybe mitigate it, stop it, or develop a plan of undercover officer to follow them to where they end up and then jump on them. So I don't know, something to consider. But someone's gonna get killed. It's not a matter of if, it's gonna happen.
I followed the group all the way down 5 into Meriden one night.
And like you said, you
Yeah.
can't even hit the lights because they won't stop. I mean, you hit the lights, they don't stop.
But if they
You
drive
can't
off
chase
fast
them.
and kill somebody,
You can't chase them.
we're the ones that are gonna end up being responsible for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is really a balancing act that needs to be done with multiple agencies. The task force that Hartford started, that's a good first step.
Yeah.
But we need to get prosecutors in on that
Can
too.
we initiate something at this point in time?
Us initiate it?
collaborate with other communities.
Yeah, we collaborate in the mid-state organization now, but I gotta be honest. We don't have the manpower to initiate something like that with our 4 or 5 officers if we have 5 on a shift. And our couple detectives, and I'm taking the move while we have people in training and in academies to move officers out of some of the other interior units where you would do stuff like that, make phone calls on, and get them back into marked police cars
Yes.
and back out on the street.
Yeah, I don't think it's more marked proactive
No.
policing. I think it's more back-end detective investigative work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is what will resolve it with search warrants and seizing these things. You know, I think that's where it is more.
So that would be work for our 6 detectives.
It's,
Group H on Route 9 had some sort of raceway going in Berlin, I think it was.
Mhm.
And they ended up catching several of them through their investigative and intel, and they arrested several of them. And they seized their cars. So good luck racing without a car. One of them was like, you know, the kid was crying because he apparently, it was his car, it wasn't stolen. He's like, I spent 80,000 on this car and it got towed, you know, so.
We actually been doing some of that work in our town as well. 571 is a kind of racing
Yeah,
police.
yep.
And, the sergeant corralled the guys one night and said, all right, we got racers out there, and he deployed them further down on the highway.
With stop
Basically-
sticks.
Not with stop sticks, but basically we waited for them to get off the highway. And then we followed them, caught a couple on Farmington Avenue, and we were able to grab them that way and do charges for it.
we were able to do it one other night where the truck bar is in Webster Square in that area, and we deployed some stop sticks there. That was really more of a deterrent.
Not on
Yeah,
motorcycles and ATVs.
Not on ATVs and a motorcycle, no.
Cars, yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to have a reason to do that. So you have to be like in a pursuit where it has to flee. You can't just throw them out because I think that car is causing a problem.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. Maybe a few
It was
years
up
back,
to
we could have
me.
done it that way, yeah, but, you know, I think, I honestly think this discussion about resources should probably be in the executive session.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
It's
we
investigative.
need to have a conversation about numbers.
Yep.
Well, I guess that takes care of the chief's monthly report. Okay, patrol operation division, and Martin. Anybody have any commissioners have any comments or questions?
Just because you couldn't make the meeting tonight, there's information here. The question last time was about how many minutes are being spent on what types of calls, and also that's all provided here.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you. That was perfect. 7 stolen vehicles.
The hard part was in trying to get this information off the computer, we lost the first letters of like every sentence.
Did you?
You can tell most of them are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
No, thank you, Chief.
I'll just bounce to the very last page of the review burglary motor vehicle thefts. In all larceny cases, there was 0 burglaries in July. This is the one less than previous month. The number of burglaries is down 16% compared to the same period in 2023. There were 6 shoplifting reports in July, which represents an increase of 3 compared to June 24. Shoplifting is down 31% as compared to the same period in 23. There were 7 motor vehicle thefts reported in July. This is an increase of 1 as compared to the previous month. Motor vehicle theft is 3% lower than the same period last year. Theft for motor vehicle totaled 3 for July, down 1 from last month. Theft for motor vehicle is down 71% from the same period last year. Theft of motor vehicle parts, I'm assuming that's catalytic converters.
Mhm.
Total 3 for July as compared to 1 last month. Theft of motor vehicle parts is down 71% compared to the same period last year. There was 0 adverse connection with this record. Supervisory spot checks. That's about it. So that kind of wraps up that. Second, all set with that? RTPs. Gonna move on to 9, which is the investigation division Lieutenant Solik.
So the reason why there's some red on your pages is because that information came in after he submitted his report for the month.
Okay.
So I updated some.
So I noticed that we're doing it, and I find it's a bit ironic that we do this ragged mountain ATV patrol and so on and so forth. We're able to get these ATVers out there and give them tickets, but and
Because we're on ATVs and
It's a little slower in the woods.
our ATV officers went to training and they're pretty good at catching them in the woods and stuff. It is slower, it's not the roads. And you know, if they're driving really fast and they flip over and hit a tree, there's less likely that they're gonna be driving really, you know, on the street. If we start to chase them, they take off. We're putting the public at risk. Trees, don't sue us, you know.
on page 8 of that report, I noticed Officer Linda Hackett attempted to conduct a motor vehicle stop of an electric Yamaha dirt bike that was operated recklessly. Got ready to stop the road. That series with police. The suspect operator was tentatively identified as juvenile residing in Brown. They had a similar dirt bike impounded in Britain. The same behavior investigation. If I'm not mistaken, I saw this in the previous month with the same vehicle. Is this guy a repeat offender or something? They keep giving it back to me. It's number 2400001. It's on the second to last page. I just found that interesting. Amongst other.
Oh, you know, that's in the because it's the youth officer tracking
Yeah, it's
it.
got it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I don't know if he got that, if it's the same one. There's a lot of those electric bikes out there now.
Yeah, it's amazing
Yeah.
how fast they go.
Yeah.
And then I noticed on the last page, the new hire status. It looks as though we have 3 officers here at the very bottom that are FTO training. Well, actually 4. Roy Penna is at post. He should be.
He's
done
on
with
the road
FTO.
he's an FTO right now.
So at the end of October, he'll be
Good to go, hopefully.
fully
Yeah.
good to go.
Mhm.
Brandon Scott should be fully good to go by January.
Yeah, they're still in the academy. They're gonna graduate sometime at the end of September.
Well, again, the FTO is the,
And then they FTO from September until January.
and then Alan Yang and Brody Mongelli.
Mhm.
Very good. So basically, at that point, we should be up to.
Is
45.
Almeida still on FTO or is he done now?
He's on FTO.
No, he's on FTO.
Which,
But should be done this month?
end of month.
We're hoping.
That's the anticipated. date. So essentially, we're down 6 people.
That's another conversation that should
Is it
be
big?
executive.
all good, all good.
Support services, Lieutenant Jobs. Seeing as he is present, is there anything that you would like to compliment on, Lieutenant? And you're on the spot. I get it.
You want to report?
Here's your report.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're moving forward with the fair that's coming up in September. And we've, secured the trailer from, the Brett McMahon trailer. Last year, we had a big problem with, phones going down in with mostly Verizon, which increased our, missing person calls. So we've, reached out to, AT&T and Verizon. They're bringing, mobile command, or not command, mobile, towers to the fairgrounds for us, so we shouldn't have problems with our cell phones. And we also run our dispatch at the fair through a hotspot, which we had problems with, so then we had to switch to a different, an officer had a hotspot from another carrier. So we've been moving with, forward with that. We've been working on, OSHA conducted a visit. We've been working on getting our documentation for, some things that they had pointed out. We just had a meeting the other day with that.
The CrowdStrike hit us pretty hard, but
Oh, yeah.
we're back up and running with that.
What's that?
CrowdStrike, when the computers went down all over from the CrowdStrike
Oh, yeah.
event.
That was wild.
Yeah. Well, they're still having problems. I mean, there's been multiple issues in dispatch, some of the stuff in dispatch is, older, and Oscar Espinosa has been all over. He's done a really good job. Him and Tom Farr, the communication supervisor, have really been working hard, making sure that everything's up and running. And it's like some of the newer computers took it worse than some of the older computers too. It's kind of weird how this whole CrowdStrike thing is.
Having an inquiry here, what I would like to do is, I understand we have training officers, we have more than one. And what I would like to get is like a delineation as to what the responsibilities, as to the duties, what they're expected to do on a weekly basis.
Well,
so that we can.
We don't really have two training officers. We have a training officer and an officer that was covering for the training officer who was out on paternity leave. And then when he came back, she was in the process of doing some project when he was gone that she had to finish. And then she went out on vacation and she just came back on Monday. And I want to talk about all of this in executive session because it involves issues that we need to discuss in executive session, not in the public session, because it involves the operation of the department. So
Just reach it out.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we'll add it all together.
All right, and then I would like to move on to the Sergeant Henry Hawson's report. And what I did notice, and I don't think the public realizes just how valuable Officer DePinto is. And I would like to just review, this is all good. Officer DePinto, while assigned to SRO position during the 2023-2024 school year at Berlin High School, participated in several lockdown drills, safe school committee meetings, student interviews, presented forensic science topics, participated in the annual trunk and treat event, continued to teach DARE at both McGee and St. Paul schools. DePinto is coordinator for the law enforcement torch run and is a police cadet advisor. Both roles allow him to inspire, lead, and educate youth in the town of Berlin. To help ensure safety, the SRO is on hand during school searches, potentially involving weapons, drugs, or in such cases that a student's emotional state may present a risk to the administrators. The SRO assists with emergency crisis planning, building security matters, and providing a course of training for school personnel when it comes to handling crisis situations. As in the past, the police visibility begins each morning at the main entrance with the SRO will greet the staff and students upon arrival. That's amazing. This practice has continued to prove valuable on many different levels. Trust, respect, friendship has been formed with a simple daily gesture, standing outside the entrance affords the SRO the opportunity to monitor all individuals entering the building, thereby adding an additional layer of security to Berlin High School. So SRO DePinto is highly respected as students, parents, and faculty of Berlin High School. His dedication to the SRO program is evident in his participation in extracurricular school activities and his accessibility both during and after school hours. SRO to Pinto Valley as an SRO is immeasurable, and his diligence in working with the Berlin High School students is constant. So I would just like to give kudos. Job well done.
Second that.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments on the Lieutenant Jobs' report, monthly report? All set. Okay, we're moving on to operations report. Gallup, would you like to make any comments? Deputy Chief?
My report just reflects, the officers who accept the training. Last month, which we continue to do.
And then I noticed that on the second page, as far as the budget goes, I did take a look at the overtime budget. Now, correct me if I'm mistaken, but this is the first month of our new fiscal year. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
So we have a budget that in the first month we adopted $650,000 for the fiscal year, going till the end of next June. Is that correct? And
Yes.
this first month, we went through $50,586.72, which is in line with the 650 at the moment, correct?
Right. If you extrapolate that out, that would be about 600,000.
Correct.
If it stayed exactly the same throughout the rest of the year. However, we know we got the Berlin Fair coming up. And that's gonna always make a hit to the
Brings it
budget.
up.
And, we have some other anticipated expenses coming up, like we have to staff dispatch for a month with a second dispatcher. Dispatch overtime comes out of police overtime. There is no separate budget for dispatch. So, but as of right now, we're on track.
That's good.
And I see a line item for extra duty police officer. Is there a separate, it looks like there's a separate line item for when there's,
Extra duty is completely separate from overtime.
so it doesn't come out of like the police budget,
It
right?
does not.
Very good, thank you.
Anybody else have any of the other commissioners have anything to? Nope. And then we have the freedom of information law. Any questions, sir?
Third of this month.
Yes, it's a short month.
No questions? And I would ask.
What, real quick on for the overtime, we were over budget for overtime last fiscal year is what, July to June or June to July to June, right? Or July 1 to end of June.
June 30th, yeah.
June 30th, we were over budget.
Right. So what happens is when, for instance, we're short-staffed and we spend more money on different items such as training, filling shifts, and we could give you, I can give you an idea of exactly what we spent on every tag that we have. However, bear in mind that we operated within the budgets we were given by the town of Berlin, and any money that had to supplement the overtime budget was taken from salaries because there was overages in salaries. So when we're short personnel, we have extra money in salaries.
Got it.
And
So
then
is
that
there
money
moves.
Yeah,
So any money that was transferred to cover overtime came from within our own budgets, and we
Got
kept
it.
within those budgets. And as a matter of fact, at the end of every year, the last 3 years, we've given back well in excess of $100,000 per year.
even this past fiscal year?
Yes,
Wow, okay.
this past fiscal year is 125,836, 26. I got my cheaters on.
For the training on the first page, and I don't need an exact figure, but are any of these folks on overtime?
Training, the problem with training is when you're short, when you're more short-staffed, like last year, we send our officers to West Hartford for 4 days a week to do our in-service training. That in-service training is no longer available to us, so we've had to do other options because they don't do in-service training anymore. So, but when we're sending people to training, we schedule those people so it minimizes overtime. However, when you're running minimum shifts every day,
It's gonna incur overtime.
you're gonna get your overtime. So a lot of the money that you see that's paid towards training, some of that is backfilling for required trainings that we had to send people to. So that also increases the training, the money that we spend on training.
With respect to overtime, which line item have you seen a spike in this past fiscal year? And has it been consistent with other previous years?
The biggest spike we saw last year was due to a vacation. So what happened last year, and it was a fairly drastic increase in vacations for last year because we settled, the police union settled a contract with the town of Berlin. And as a part of that, several things happened. Number one, you would expect that they got contractual raises, okay? So, and we also had personal time, which you get 5 days, and 2 of those in the past could create overtime. Now all 5 of them can create overtime.
Right.
We also had in the last year, we had at least 3 officers went out on paternity leave, and they were out for 6 to 8 weeks each. And that creates overtime because you have to fill those shifts.
How about injured?
So
Injury as
we
well?
had 1 officer that was out for probably the better part of about 2 years.
And you have to backfill that
You
as
have to
well.
backfill those shifts as well. So, but one of the problems with a vacation was that the town asked us to switch off the system that we were currently using, whereas, because years ago, we used to have problems where the officer's vacation would accrue and start from fresh July 1st every year, so it would go fiscal year. So what we did is we switched everybody to their anniversary date. Because what was happening is everybody's using the rest of their vacation time at the end of June. And we were getting reamed with overtime in June, ordering officers in to
And
fill
now you
shifts.
space it out, yeah.
So, but the town asked us to go back to doing it per fiscal year again. Because it's easy for them bookkeeping
Track it.
wise to keep track of it. Because the anniversary date, you have to track their anniversary date. As a result of that, you had some officers that were switching their dates mid-year. So what the union worked out with the town was that the town gave them whatever vacation they had accrued. And then on July 1st, they started with a brand new bank. So some officers got considerably more vacation they would normally have had. So
And they can't carry their vacation over. They have to use it or lose it.
they can carry.
Under the
they
new
can
contract, they can carry
of
some,
now.
not all.
In the past, they couldn't.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had some officers who had almost double their overtime vacation
Vacation
days. And contractual, we have to give them their vacation days. So when they put in a vacation, they have to take vacation. So a lot of that vacation time created overtime. And we looked at those numbers and we estimated somewhere in the area of $75,000 of our overtime account was to cover that extra vacation. Now, that's not
That's a
something
one-time.
that happen every year. That's a
Yeah, that's
one-time.
one
How does
time
the
deal.
vacation work? So for example, if they're doing block vacation, like they're leaving, then yes, you have to approve it. But if it's a Friday night and I just don't want to come in 2 hours ahead of time because I don't want to work, can you just call in and say I'm taking a vacation day?
It depends. I mean, if the shift is heavy, then you can.
Yeah,
But
but-
most of the time, it's not heavy now because we're still
We're short.
short-staffed. So
So like late,
technically, they could try if we could fill the overtime, but we can't fill it that quick. And frankly, no one takes overtime. They only take order-ins. So generally speaking, no, you wouldn't be allowed to do that.
has order-ins increased year over year?
Order-ins have increased pretty dramatically the last year or so, but recently they've trimmed down quite a bit because now we have more staffing. That we just had a couple of guys come off FTO not too long ago, and we have a couple more that's scheduled to come off. So that's reduced the amount of order-ins as of late.
Is the overtime considered like part of the pension or is it?
No,
No, it's just straight or time and a half, double time.
they make time and a half
Yeah.
to work overtime, but it's not included in the pension.
Just, I know the chief spoke about that last time. I don't know if you were here for it. Or it's all kind of blended together, but you had brought up post and doing the research hours that you need for post accreditation through
You talk about post-university.
post university. Yeah.
It gets very confusing, post and
Yeah.
post. Yeah.
And the state police have rolled it out, and it seems very fast, easy, efficient.
West Hartford
Online.
has
Yeah.
also rolled it out. That's why we lost our West Hartford connection.
Yeah,
So we actually have that up and
Yeah.
running now.
you do,
We
yeah.
just
Yeah.
assigned the first block of classes to go out to officers. And I
Yeah.
think that's gonna work pretty well. We do have a list of trainings though, and the problem is there's a certain amount of training that has to be done in person, and we need to do that at the police department. And again, so what we started doing at the PDs, we do quarterly trainings now. So you can do your OC and your firearms and your batons and your use all the stuff that you have to do in person. So we do that in quarterly training, but to bring that many people in a quarter, it costs some money too.
Yeah,
So that's,
yeah.
a
It's
little bit of a training
inevitable,
issue. But,
yeah.
you know, it has to be done. I mean,
So
I can say the
that
posting.
could answer the question that you asked earlier about having two training officers. One officer's out on paternity, if I keep saying paternity leave, and the other one picked up that project while that officer was out, because that's when we said we've got to come up, and they had him come do the demonstration and see how it's going to work and all. That's the project that she's working on, that she's coming to finish, because now we're going to be setting out the blocks. And then he came back, so there's an overlap, but we're going to talk about that some changes after in executive.
we also have a Cert Assist that helps us keep track of that now.
Yeah.
And a lot of places like Post, they post any training you do, it goes directly on a Cert Assist. So we can see that the officers have done their
Has
required training.
progressed,
And
yeah.
it goes against their post-required hours, and that helps.
So
us.
Post
And they
gets
can
it
do
direct
that
I'm
to,
glad you
If
guys.
there's
are doing
downtime
it.
during the shift, like click on the
So-
computer and do
So
some of
that's the
that
nice thing
training.
about it, is because we're now doing this training, instead of sending them away for 4 days,
Mhm.
we're doing it in-house when time allows.
so when we sent the person away, we'd have to backfill that
Yeah,
person too.
yeah,
Now, while they're on shift, it's downtime, they could
Yeah.
just do 20
Right.
minutes, like,
yeah.
Do a block or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that you
you-
get
And
in.
that's what the
It
emergency room does
pauses.
to get us through all of our
Yes.
trainings, and it makes it a lot
it
easier.
pauses right where you stop, and
Yeah.
it carries on right where you left, and the exam is, you need to get 100.
Yeah, I think that's gonna work out really
But
well.
it's
The only
not-
thing we're gonna go back to West
Not
Hartford
rocket
for is,
Is
they
EMR.
do a great job at medical recertifications every year, because you have to put a certain amount of classroom hours and practical skills, which is difficult for a department our size to do practical skills scenarios. training,
EMP or
you know?
EMR?
No,
Yeah.
just for EMR. So
EMR.
we're gonna send our officers to West Hartford just for that one day that West Hartford's doing the EMR, and we send our instructor as well to help them teach that class. So that'll be the one day that we'll be sending them off for.
Very good.
Thank you.
Are we all set? Any other questions?
I think I'm good.
All right, well, we're gonna move into executive
questions.
So I was
session.
gonna say, I think we go into executive session.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
I'm just to the bathroom quick.
So I'll let you know when we come out.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Good night.
Yeah, you know what? Just yell at me.
So we came out of executive session and a vote was taken to end the meeting. So
At 9:10.
the meeting is now over. So now we can exit out of the